Previewing the first of our preliminary finals, and it is a reversal of our qualifying final matchups in both games. It's the Melbourne Storm taking on the Sydney Roosters Friday night, 7:50 p.m. at AAMI Stadium or Melbourne Rectangular Stadium. And two imposing preliminary final records, a staggering 12th prelim for Craig Bellamy at the helm of the Melbourne Storm. They're 6-5 in those. But the Roosters, they've won 8 of their last 11 prelims this century. So two sides that have spent a fair bit of time at this stage of the season. We'll jump into our finals focus. Looking at the stat that matters for the Melbourne Storm, and one of the key factors in their success has been their consistency and reliability. 732 missed tackles this season, easily the lowest in the competition, averaging just 29 a game by comparison to the Roosters, who are at 33. Might not seem like a huge difference, but that's a monumental stat in the context of the season. So if they can continue to stick their tackles, continue to be disciplined, they'll be very hard to beat. Key player for the Storm, Nelson Asofa-Solomona. We look at guys like Ryan Papenhuyzen and Cam Munster and these sorts of key playmakers, Jerome Hughes being another one. But the key is around the middle of the park against this Roosters side. If they can get on top there, given their ability to limit mistakes around the ground, then they're going to be one step away really from a grand final once they get that part of their game up and running, and he's going to be crucial to that. Key stat for the Roosters, we spoke about the Storm's efficiency. Well, the Roosters have played quite boldly and aggressively throughout the course of the season, but it has lended itself to errors. 53 more penalties conceded than the Melbourne Storm this season, and 50 more points across the course of the season. They've also got the most sin bins and the most reports of the remaining 4 finalists this season. And with their loss to Penrith in the qualifying final, it was error-riddled, particularly in the first 10 minutes. So the key for the Sydney Roosters is a simple one in theory, and that is to limit the mistakes. They won't get away with that against the Storm. Key player for the Roosters is Connor Watson. Injuries have created opportunities. We spoke a little bit in the previous 2 weeks about the bad timing of the Roosters' run of injuries, but Watson is one who's been thrown into the deep end a little bit through this September campaign, and he's going to be very, very important. Obviously, he was able to perform at a really high standard against Manly last week. This is another step up in challenge in a big way, really, for Watson and his team. So if he can do the job in the absence of Smith and players like that, then that can help them in their path to victory. Well, the Melbourne Storm hold a positive win-loss record against basically everyone in the competition, and that's the case with the Roosters as well. 31-20 head-to-head, but they won 10 of their last 11, so once upon a time it was even, but not so much of late. They have met in 5 finals though, and that's where the Roosters have held an edge 3-2, but the Storm did win the most recent final, which was only last year when they got up 18-13. And if we do look across the board in Victoria, the Melbourne Storm have been particularly dominant, 17-7 from 24 meetings in this state. Well, Storm and the Roosters have met twice this season, and Storm taking both of those matches. They met earlier in the year in Sydney, and the Storm won that 18-12, and it was more convincing in July when they met in Melbourne 24-8, and that has been the big Achilles heel for the Roosters, their performances against both the Melbourne Storm and the Penrith Panthers this year. They get one more shot to turn that around. Well, when it comes to this time of year, it is the side generally that defends better and makes the least mistakes that does prevail, and the Melbourne Storm have ticked those boxes all the way through. As we did say, the Roosters, their Achilles heel has been their efforts against the top 2. They get another chance here, and potentially, if they win that, another one against a Penrith side who they've also struggled against. But the Storm have conceded 50 less points, made 54 less errors over the course of the season, and they are rock solid when it matters most. And you feel like when it comes to the crunch that they will be again and progress through to another grand final. You can preview all of this action as part of our NRL Finals Hub at zerotackle.com.